So, have you been kind of interested in mountains since you were young?
I'm drawn to maps. I was drawn to maps from quite an early age, actually. Those kind of like craggy, interesting places. Places that have got those sort of contours and woods and meadows, you just get more wildlife. And I'm sure that's a big part of the appeal. When I came up to the Lake District, it was just like oozing with that, lush and green and lichen dripping off trees. So I travelled around the Lake District on a burrowed fell pony in 2018.
Morning, Pansy.
Just something I'd wanted to do since I was a teenager, really. It was a really powerful experience, really special. There was a particular moment up on the hill. It just really dawned on me how quiet it was up there, and where are the birds? Where are the insects? Where are the plants? I don't know, it hit me quite hard, really. It was pretty barren and desolate, and I felt a real sense of like, what are we doing about this? This is my garden. It's the size of a postage stamp. It's lovely, but it's tiny, and this is all I can control. Whereas if you're a farmer, you've got like hundreds of acres or thousands of acres of land that you can have an impact on. These are the people that could make a difference.
Yeah, to do it. Do we need to draw that bit on, that last bit?
I'm going to spend a month out in the Lake District on horseback, stopping off at farms along the way to see farmers who are producing food and helping to regenerate nature.
How far is it?
I think it's about 250 miles, but I need to measure it.
And he's capable of doing that?
As far as I know, yeah. He's a strong horse. He's got good, strong cannon bones. He's got good hooves.
He's not really been tested fully.
Not fully, no. What is Merry like? He's young, he's a Welsh cob, so like a native breed, but just a bit bigger than a fell, but he's just got a great attitude.
Hello. Hello. I've got some carrots. Good boy. Good boy.
Quite level-headed, really, so yeah, he's quite chilled.
You lovely boy. Here you are. Hey, coming in? Come on then.
Cumbria is just, well, it's home for starters, and I feel like a really strong sense of belonging and wanting to make a difference here, but also there's some really unusual habitats and species. Regenerative farming is a fancy word for farming with nature. It's not about farming at the expense of nature, and it's not about looking after nature at the expense of producing food. If we farm in a more regenerative and nature-friendly way, we are securing food systems and we're making ourselves much more resilient to changes in the climate. And actually farms will do better often because of the biodiversity on them, and that's what is starting to, be evidenced. We've lost so much, but we can get it back. I'm a gardener, and I know full well that if you leave a piece of land for long enough, like nature comes back.
Merry. Well done. Hi.
Not bad for a first night. We're having a really nice day, and it's been really steady. Just a gentle sort of 10 kilometres from where Mary lives, and we've come through woodlands and along some lanes, and he's been brilliant. He's sorry, he should be in the shot, not me. He's just been so good. I can't tell you how proud of him I am. And there's my little tent, and I'm gonna cook some food and read my book and kind of let it all sink in that we've started. It's quite exciting. There he is, boy wonder. See you later. First up on my journey, I'm going to see James Robinson, who's an organic dairy farmer. James is absolutely passionate about the wildlife on his land and has created loads of different habitats on the farm, as well as producing milk.
So my family have been farming this bit of land for 150 years nearly, 1875. So we're now up to 300 acres. Yeah, everything is part of it. So it's not just the cows or the milk that leaves the farm or the name at the bottom of the thing or the house, the buildings. It's everything. You know, it's the hedging, it's the fields, it's the cows, it's the stuff that's living in the beck. Everything is part of the farm for us. When we're hedge laying, we kind of do them 3 times in our working lifetime. There's 3 generations working on the hedge. If we come across a tree, we'll leave it. If there isn't one and we've got a spare tree from somewhere else, then we'll try and plant it in. So you end up really that you've got a lot of trees. And that, I think, is something that has really been lost out of the landscape in the last 50 years. So I think we've got a lot of catching up to do really with that. It is a very clean beck, is this? So that's whitewater crowfoot, which only grows in well-oxygenated clean water. Because we've got stuff like that, we've got the native white-clawed crayfish in this beck as well. There's a dipper under that bridge, nests under that bridge as well. We see kingfisher up here, and then we see otter as well. So because of everything, right from the invertebrates to the little fish to the crayfish, we've then got the otter that comes up and down as well. When I was that little kid here, that was mid-80s, there was no otters in, I think there was only one county in England, I think, was it? Yeah. They were in then, and that's it. There was no otters in you know, really? And now they're in every county in England. So to know that something like that needs, you know, a healthy river system has come back within my lifetime to here and to everywhere else. Yeah. It kind of shows, well, we can do something right. You know, we can mend stuff. You know, it kind of encourages you to try and do a bit more. There's a picture of me just down there, 10th birthday, with my little skinny legs, in the beck, and all this was just field then. So there was no wood at all.
So you've seen this grow up
from nothing.
Yeah.
And if you want to sort of show people what you can do in a generation, a lifetime, you know, you can bring them here and you can just show. We've been doing it a long time. We've been in schemes for 30 years. We know how it works, and even we struggle. You know, you get stuck behind all the bureaucracy. And there's loads of people, loads of NGOs, you know, Wildlife Trust, Woodland Trust, whatever it might be, that are really keen on getting onto farms and doing stuff. But it's then how you engage with them. How do they know that you want to them? You know, and there's a lot of mistrust between farmers and that type of group as well, and there shouldn't be at all. You know, there's a real good middle ground. They want to see change on farms, and farmers want to do the right thing as well. And it's just finding this real good middle ground where people can talk and feel safe.
James is doing brilliant things on his farm. He's such an ambassador. He hasn't had his family saying like, oh, I wouldn't do that. You know, they're really behind him. And James is putting his head completely above the parapet. He's unashamedly farming in a nature-friendly way. He's got the confidence to really stand up and say, this is really important. This is important for wildlife, but it's also important to me. It's important for my mental health. And that was really special, the conversations that we had.
Why is it that you want to do this on a horse? Why aren't you just walking?
Because it's a way of travelling through the landscape that is old, and people would have been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's a connection with a native animal that kind of roughly belongs in this landscape. But there is definitely that connection between you and the land, because you're essentially fueled by grass which grows here. It's slow. If you're on a horse, there's that rhythm of their hooves on the ground, and there's a really steady pace to that. I'm not interested in going fast at all, because you miss things when you go fast, and it feels a lot more connected, I think. Yeah, it's just quite beautiful. Wet, wet, wet.
Do you know what today has in store for you?
Yeah, rain. We are going up over to Mosedale Cottage, so it's going to be quite a rocky, stony, old pack horse route up to a quarry, and then on from there over to Mosedale Cottage, which is a bothy. Good boy. It goes from one extreme to the other. It'll be quite rocky, and then it's going to be quite boggy. And then we'll pick up a harder trail at Mosedale Cottage, down to Swindale Waterfalls, hopefully. So yeah, so it's going to be a challenging day for Merry, and well, for both of us. But he's so much more settled. I think he's getting it slowly. When you're on a horse, you're powered by the grass on the ground and the water in the rivers. So it gives you a really deep connection with a place, actually. You're not buzzing through it. I think fundamentally the reason I want to do this journey is because I want to do something positive and contribute. I want to be part of the solution, and it feels like something that I can do. It's probably some of the most technical and challenging terrain you can ride a horse on certainly in England. Yeah, it's not a walk in the park, that's for sure. We spent yesterday travelling up Longsleddle, which is mainly sheep farms, and it's quite heavily grazed, and you can really see it in the landscape. And then you come over the fell into Swindale Valley, and it was just completely different and much more an environment that brings joy to me, certainly. I'm dropping down to see Lee Schofield, who runs Naddle Farm, which is a really sort of pioneering regenerative farming project in Haweswater and Swindale.
How you doing?
So yeah, Swindale is one of the two farms that we're looking after at Haweswater, and it's kind of a classic Lake District glacial valley, really. So we've done lots of kind of physical things in Swindale. We've re-meandered the river. We've done lots of work to the hay meadows. So Swindale was like a remote little settlement. So the people that lived here had to work the land like really, really hard to survive. So in order to protect the hay meadows, which they would have relied on like absolutely to feed their stock through the winter, the river was straightened.
It's survival, isn't it?
They were kind of modifying the landscape to suit their needs, to meet their sort of societal needs, and they were thinking about their own sort of small society in this valley. And by remeandering it, by making it flood more regularly, by sort of slowing the flow of water, we're still thinking about society's needs, but we're thinking about society's needs at a much bigger scale. You know, we no longer rely on these hay meadows for our survival, but the people who live in Carlisle rely on not flooding on a regular basis. And of course, remeandering the river isn't by itself going to stop that, but it's going to contribute in a small way, and it contributes to improving the water quality. So it's just an evolution of the same thinking, but just thinking at a different kind of scale.
And it is still about survival.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue
way,
it's about planetary survival and like survival of life on Earth.
Yeah.
You know, everything we're doing here is helping to tackle climate change. It's locking up more carbon in the trees and in the peat soils and stuff. So yeah, it is about survival, just not about kind of the survival of individual humans on a year-to-year basis.
That are in this valley. It's a wider picture. Yeah.
Basically, we're trying to reconstruct a sort of a naturalistic grazing regime that a lot of the wildlife here evolved alongside. So, you know, we had native cattle, we had native ponies, pigs, deer. We didn't have sheep. You know, sheep have no native ancestors in the UK. So although they've been here a long time, they have a sort of a disproportionate impact.
So why don't you just get rid of the sheep altogether?
So so sheep are kind of such an important part of the cultural landscape of the Lake District that we want to work out, first of all, if it's possible, to have an element of that that sits alongside kind of big scale ecological restoration. So the sheep only graze 10% of the site now. But if we can manage them more intelligently, do that kind of pulse grazing, do long periods of rest, then they will hopefully complement the sort of the biodiversity within the farm. Clearly, not everybody loves what we're doing up here. And early on, so I've been here for 9 years, a little over 9 years, and the first couple of years were just really hard, you know, really brutal, and everybody wanted us to go. And there was a lot of concern about, you know, what we were going to do. You know, the expectation was that we were just going to get rid of all the sheep and we were going to run roughshod over all the cultural heritage. It's a massive change, and change is difficult, particularly for a community of people who feel really quite under threat as it is. We might not always get it right, but we are genuinely trying to not have negative impacts on anybody else. You know, whether farmers like it or not, they are going to have to change. Subsidies are changing, and there's loads of people who are already doing that and at that kind of that leading edge, and that's really exciting. But there's also a lot of people who just don't know where to turn. So yeah, it's going to be quite tough times for a lot of people, I think, over the next few years.
Next up are the Millers, who are an incredibly hard-working, humble farming family. They're first-generation farmers and are just kind of all in it, learning together.
In the past, it wasn't cool, was it, to be into wildlife and nature and stuff like that at the same time as farming. But you know, I've always liked wildlife and seeing birds and, you know, red squirrels, hedgehogs, all that sort of stuff. We had a school teacher in primary school that was really inspiring and into wildlife, you know, and we used to go on trips to RSPB nature reserves and lots of different things. We used to go and watch the golden eagles up at Haweswater.
Did you?
And I think that was a really good thing.
What have you got here on the farm then? What's it?
Livestock wise, we've got 400 breeding yows, 6,000 hens for laying eggs, and we've got a few cows and a few pigs.
These are all boys, castrated to the wethers, so they're castrated males. So these will actually eventually, in probably 2 years' time, be in the freezer to sell. So that's because they're herd with lambs, you know, very popular, isn't it?
It's difficult when you look at them now.
Yeah, it is, but we just look at it, you know, giving them as good a life as possible to that point.
There's a lot of negativity towards trees and on one side from farmers, and on the other side there's a negativity towards sheep. I don't think sheep are the problem in a lot of these farming areas or on the fells and stuff. I think it's the way in which they're managed. I'm at fault of it as much as other farmers. We've overgrazed, we've maybe kept too much stock. That isn't all the farmer's fault, because there isn't much profit in the sheep, so you have to keep more. My mother and father, when I first got into farming, they bought a field when I was 18 and 19-year-old, and within a year I started planting trees on the field. A lot of farmers might not say this, but I like trees. 20 years later, we've planted, I don't know, 11 or 12,000 trees, you know, and haven't reduced our farming. We've actually built our farming up at the same time. You know, our farm's got a lot bigger, our productivity's got better. Over the last 50 years, we've lost a lot of our biodiversity and species and insects and all that sort of stuff. It's been a massive decline, but it can't just be blamed on farmers. I don't think it's fair to blame it on farmers. We need to work together to try and sort things out.
Would you like to take on this farm when you get older then?
Yeah, I would definitely like to do that in the future. Obviously, I don't know what the future holds. Always like to farm here, always like to have sheep here, for sure. So, yeah.
Oh, she's loving it.
She's a weirdo. This one wants to go as well. Yeah.
And when you think about leaving this to your kids, then what do you want to leave? What would you like to be here?
Well, yeah, just for them to have the same mindset as we do, in the sense of, you know, Gary always says, you know, leave it in a better state than you found it, and that's basically it. You know what I mean? That's as simple as it is.
I'm gonna be upset now.
It's all right, it's not happening yet. It's fine. Everything's fine.
It's weird, isn't it?
Just throw it in all sorts of rubbish.
It's 8 o'clock. Crikey. Yeah, it's 8 in the evening, and I'm absolutely knackered. I feel like a bit of a lightweight, but I probably am not a lightweight. There's been a lot to juggle of. Look, Merry, it can be a bit of he's quite a handful sometimes.
Oh my
He's
God.
got a lot of character, which I like, but he's can be quite hard work.
Whoa, Merry!
I also had a stomach bug that was pretty draining, and then I dropped a bridle. Like I know I'm making mistakes. I left his bridle accidentally up at Mosedale Cottage and then had to walk sort of, I don't know, it must have been about 12k to go and get it. So I'm just knackered.
All right, safe journey.
All right.
Yeah.
Just be careful going across that main road.
I will do, thanks. Thanks, Dad. See you later.
I think the other thing is just all the conversations that I'm having with people, and where regenerating the land and farming is in some sense a really positive subject. I think the underlying matter is actually really big and quite scary, and I worry a lot about it. I care a lot about seeing the natural world disappearing and the lack of care sometimes there is. It's not a light subject, and I think I sometimes underestimate that.
How far through are we?
We're just a week in. I can't believe that. So we've got another 3 weeks in theory. Yeah. I can't believe how tiring it is. I struggle with my mental health a little bit, and being outside in wilder places and my mental health are inextricably linked. My love for the outdoors has always been there, but I think it became, as I grew up, it became more and more of a symbol of a safe place where I felt a sense of belonging. and that sense of wonder and joy that I get from it. I kind of feel like that was where I was nurtured. I do feel like I owe it something somehow. And that's why that's another reason why it's so painful, aside from it just being just awful in terms of what we're seeing in the seas and the land. And it's also just like, oh, that's my safe place that's being damaged. What the hell are you doing? So it makes me desperately sad sometimes. Just come up onto the top of the hill behind where I'm camping. It's absolutely beautiful up here, and I don't know if you can see the white in the kind of distance behind me. It's all bog cotton, or cotton grass, depending on what you want to call it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Great views tonight. And Merry is down behind me. I've just been for a swim in the tarn over there, and Merry's just grazing down below next to my tent. It's just gorgeous. That's what it's all about. One of the cool things about riding in the lakes is that you're often on old pack horse routes or drovers routes, and the pack ponies are a really big part of the heritage of this landscape. So these old drovers routes, they're just really ancient and they feel ancient. It would be hard to farm in this area and not feel a sense of connection to that and the old ways and the traditions. I'm heading down now to see Richard and Alison Maxwell, who have a National Trust farm in Ennerdale. They've got a small flock of Herdwick sheep and Galloway cattle, which are used for conservation grazing with the Wild Ennerdale project. And they also produce meat to sell. So they really span these two worlds of traditional farming and rewilding.
So our animals and our type of farming, our methods of farming in Ennerdale, which is very, very low intensity farming, and the animals are used as a tool in the rewilding process. I don't call myself a regenerative farmer. I probably don't know exactly what's meant by it. So I farm in a way that I believe helps nature. I farm in a way that helps the environment. That's how I see myself now. I want to do what is more natural, rather than forcing or imposing my way or society's way on animals or plants or environment. I love to see things do their own thing. And I know everyone isn't allowed to do this. I know everyone doesn't have this, but I've been given the opportunity. I wasn't the only person with the opportunity, but we took it, myself and Alison, and to see it now, it's changed me dramatically. We've got to realise that people, especially people that have known nothing but farming, and in some cases walk the fells every day of their life, to expect them to change, it's like going into a town and saying, I'm going to take away all the things that you do every day. Changing people's lives takes a lot of acceptance. I do think that livestock do serve a purpose on the fells, and it's a happy medium. I think if we took everything off, things may change and screw up and go too far, as overgrazing takes things too far.
So I'm going to see Alistair, and he is someone I met on my previous journey. We got on really well and we had some really good conversations actually. There's just a bit of banter between us, which is quite playful. He referred to me as a tree-hugging hippie and one of those. And then slowly Alistair started to share with me actually some of the stuff that he loves to see on his land, like some of the bird life. And really that was quite the catalyst for doing this journey now. What animals have you got on the farm? What do you produce?
We're running at the minute just about 2,000 breeding ewes plus lambs. So you could be looking at 4,500 sheep all told. We had to focus on profit, we had to focus on the business, and we recognised that in the fullness of time financial support from government was going to get less. So the sheep were the obvious way forward. We have a lot of buzzards and sparrowhawks, and I've even seen a merlin come into the garden and take a bird off the bird table. So yeah, we have quite a diverse wildlife population.
And how do you feel about the wildlife on your land?
I'm quite proud of it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's it wouldn't be a farm without it, would it?
So the fact that you enjoy the wildlife here, does that make you a hippie like me?
Certainly not.
Or not?
It makes me appreciate what I've got, but it also as a farmer, I'm a food producer.
Yeah.
And I'm immensely proud of that.
Yeah.
I'm immensely proud of the quality, the standards that I produce that food to.
Yeah.
But I'm also proud of the fact that, it's nice to see hares running about. It's nice to see ground nesting birds. If I took 20 people off the street and brought them to this point and said, what would you like me to do different? They would tell me, no, this is lovely.
Would they?
Yeah. And
You
I've done
sure?
it. Yes.
Yeah.
I've done it. That's why I'm confident.
Yeah.
And they would say, yeah, this is lovely. Why? What are you talking about? What do you need to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you,
Yeah.
as an environmentalist, you'll never let me alone. And you can always do better. It's not right for us to be all ethical and moral and say, we're just going to look after the environment and then export our food production somewhere else. Because, it'll be coming from South America or it'll be coming from Australia. What's your carbon footprint on that? What's your environmental footprint on that? What would be the point of me covering this whole farm in trees? How do I make a living from that? You can't go green if you're in the red.
Yeah. Nice line. That's a good line. Did you just make that up? Did you? That was good.
Alistair, I wondered if just before we're done whether there was a tree somewhere that we could just get a shot of Clare hugging.
And
there's one there. So go and hug that.
No, come and hug it with me.
I'm not hugging the whole bloody tree. Not on camera. I've got some credit. Well, I've very little credibility, but I'll have bugger all left on YouTube.
There we go. Come on, Alistair. It feels good. It feels really good. I can feel the energy coming off the tree. It's amazing. Come on.
Chatting with Alistair was a bit of a tricky conversation. I don't agree with everything that he says, but that's okay because we're in a really difficult place and we've got to be able to have those difficult conversations. I totally agree with him that food production in this country is really important and you can't just export it to other countries. For food production, we have to have a healthy ecosystem. In order to have a healthy ecosystem, we've got to provide space for that. In an ideal world, I'd love to see farmers and ecologists working much closer together. There is a shift happening. I've seen farmers who really understand their place in the natural world. They are being so proactive in making changes. They're not just accepting the status quo. I get excited when I hear stories of the salmon coming back to spawn, the hedgerows that are being laid, all these habitats being created by people. My heart lifts.
don't know if you can hear that. That's been the sound of all night of Merry eating grass. He's eating it all around my tent, and he's left a massive poo right outside the door.
We can't make changes to the environment without farmers being fully up for it. The margins are so minimal, we need the government to back them. We need policies that are solid and that are going to support them. And if we don't have those policies in place, we need to stand up, be properly proactive in holding the government accountable. With a collapsed natural world, we're not going to last 5 minutes. This is a point of whether we survive or not, and it needs to be treated as such. We need clean air, we need clean water, and we need soil that we can grow food in. These guys are showing us that it's not just an idea, it's already happening. We just need more of it. Yeah, I want to see people thriving as well. I love people and I love being part of a community. I know that we need to produce food as well. A landscape needs both, and people who can enjoy doing that. You know, to see the people that I've met on this journey who are just passionate about making changes on their land and are really up for that, then it's just amazing.
Oh, Alfie, who's that? Good boy.
It's so big and yet so complex, but it's so simple as well. Just like John Muir said, everything is connected.